And a lot of budget cuts. You were in the legislature as these budget cuts came through. Were those a good thing for education?
Well, we had states across the nation cutting budgets, Democrat budgets, Senate governors, Democrat legislatures. We did a better job of protecting education than perhaps any other state in the nation, given our challenge. But the bottom line here is spending is never an excuse for failing to improve our academic outcomes. We've been relatively flat over the last 8 years, no matter how you read the numbers. And the research is clear. It's policies that improve outcomes. It's not spending. There are huge variations in spending that are associated with no academic change at all. The key in reading is we need a system of changes across the system. The National Council on Teacher Quality came in and severely criticized our colleges of education for their failure to adequately prepare teachers to teach reading. We need to implement those reforms in our colleges of education to make sure they're ready. The Florida Center for Reading Research has done some completely new and innovative things. When we're flat and they're moving, we ought to pay attention. We haven't paid attention. We're going to put in place a partnership with the Florida Center for Reading Research. We're going to bring all of that stuff here, and we're going to start moving our children.
Beth, are we doing a good job of protecting education, as Mr. Huppenthal said?
Well, I think that within the education we can be a lot better. The administrators have high salaries. If there's a problem and the superintendent has a problem, sometimes it's not solved, you just hire another person to do it. And then it protects the superintendents. Well, that takes money away from the classroom. And also, we do not have a good continuance from 8th grade to 9th grade, for instance. The scores go down in the 9th grade because the teachers are not talking across the schools.
I would just like to add one issue on the spending. This year there were a lot of legislative bills that were passed in our legislature, and many of those have no appropriation tied to them. And our legislators are banking on money coming in from Race to the Top, a grant that through the Obama administration. Now, they're hoping, and to me hope is not a strategy. And if we do not win this grant, which I don't think we really are, all of these costs are going to flow to the school districts. And that's what bothers me, is that our legislature continues to pass educational bills with no appropriation. Now that to me is not a very good idea, not good policy that our legislators continue to do.
We have very little time left. I want to get this in because a lot of people are concerned about all-day kindergarten and where it goes and whether it's worth the effort. Is all-day kindergarten, let's forget about how much it costs, just the concept. There have been a lot of research out there that suggests that this helps kids get a head start or just get going at their education career. Do you think all-day kindergarten is a good thing?
Ted, for parents, it's a safe place to put their child, but the research is absolutely clear. They spent $78 million following 20,000 students from the start of kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. The most comprehensive education study ever done. At the end of 5th grade, all-day kindergartners were behind half-day kindergartners on both math and reading, when they started at the beginning of kindergarten ahead. The research that you're referring to is second-rate research.
Department of Education, Childhood Longitudinal Study.
This is what I'm referring to, the very best educational study ever done in the history of the world. $78 million spent tracking 20,000 students. There were and the Rand Corporation did the analysis of the $78 million worth of data. My point is this: if you have top-notch research, we ought to find out what is going on. All-day kindergarten is a good service for parents, but we ought to know exactly why these effects are showing up. We ought to be flooding the zone with our researchers. We ought to be cautioning parents to be good consumers.
Beth, all-day kindergarten.
I second what he said, and I know about the research too. And I think I have substituted in the kindergarten, and about a half a day is good if you really pack it in well. And I think that the research tells us that sooner or later It doesn't make any difference.
Okay, got 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, I don't know when that study was done that would cost $78 million, but you know, being in education for over 30 years, there's a lot of educational studies that I pretty much flush if it doesn't make sense to me. And I have visited a lot of kindergarten classes since I've been the deputy superintendent. And my own sister teaches kindergarten. And when all kids can read at the end of kindergarten, I think it's a good thing. All day kindergarten, we are spending the money. And there's a lot of other waste in education. And I think all day kindergarten is a good money spent for kids to learn. And we now have academic standards. When that study was done, maybe there weren't academic standards. We do have them now.
Okay.
And if kids are learning to read at the end of the year, that's a good thing.
We've got to stop it right there because we've got to have time for closing statements, which we will start right now. Each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. And going in reverse order, we start with John Huppenthal.
Thank you, Ted. As superintendent, I pledge that my team will take a back-to-basics approach to improving our Arizona schools, one that sets high standards for all of our students. We'll ensure that students learn to read and write English in English immersion classes. We'll insist on accountability for schools and school districts based on the very best of scientific measurement. These ratings will involve parents and increase school choice. We'll support teachers in maintaining classroom discipline, and we'll demand that school administrators reduce overhead and put that savings back in the classroom to support teachers and classroom supplies. Reading is fundamental. We will engage in an all-out effort to make sure that every child is reading by the end of 3rd grade. We'll ensure that every student graduates with a knowledge of history of our great nation and a respect for the Constitution. I'm proud to be endorsed by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Len Munsell, Congressman Trent Franks, and Governor Jeb Bush from Florida.
And we'll stop you right there because that's your minute, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up with a 1 minute closing statement is Margaret Dugan.
Thank you, Ted, for having me here. It saddens me that my opponent, John, has broken the law in gathering signatures on nomination papers before forming a formal campaign committee, and that he will be able to remain on the ballot. We need to have a superintendent who sets a positive example for our students and doesn't violate the laws.
In a closing statement.
Do you want a career politician who's endorsed by just politicians and lobbyists, or a successful career educator who has been endorsed by students and parents to run your schools and to be your next superintendent of public instruction? I ask for your vote on August 24th and for your trust in leading our Arizona schools to be the very best in this country. Thank you.
And finally, Beth Price with a 1 minute closing statement.
Since I got my PhD in educational administration from the University of Texas at Austin, my thing that I have tried to in every way is support our students, because I love our students, and we should do everything within our power to help them, and that's what I will do as superintendent.
All right. Thank you very much, candidates. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching this Clean Elections debate on a special edition of Horizon. We hope you'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. for a Clean Elections debate with the Democratic candidates for Superintendent of Public Instruction. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.